Welcome to our webinar. It's so good to see you all here. As you know, the webinar is entitled "Unleashing the Power of Time Doctor: Insights for Better Workforce Analytics." My name is Calvin, and I will be your host for today's session. Right below me in the video is my colleague Prashina, and she will be co-hosting with me today. Just to introduce myself a little bit more to you, I am based in South Africa, in a little town called Worcester, which is on the west coast, uh, not too far from Cape Town. I'm sure a lot of you might know where Cape Town is. So that's where I'm located. That's where I'm streaming you from. I have been in the client success team at Time Doctor for about 11 months now, and I'm thoroughly enjoying my experience and my journey with Time Doctor. Fun fact about me, Worcester, where I live, is wine country. We're surrounded by a lot of wine farms. And so, one activity that I really enjoy doing is wine tasting with my wife. Prashina, why don't you share something about yourself?
Hello, everyone, and welcome to our webinar. As you have heard, my name is Prashina Rampasad, and I am honored to be co hosting alongside Calvin. I am from South Africa in a small city called Pretoria. A fun fact about me is that I'm a little bit of a bookworm, so I like to read a lot, and I'm super excited to take you on this journey with us. I'd like to hand back to Calvin.
Thanks, Prashina. Now, we wanted to put together this webinar to explain the different types of workforce analytics that Time Doctor offers and what we provide, and how you can use them to better uh, your productivity and your engagement with your users, with the employees, with your staff. Because we understand that it sometimes can be overwhelming, it sometimes can be daunting to interpret some of these reports and some of these analytics. But before we get to that, what's a webinar without an agenda? So let's take a quick look at ours today. So, first, we want to show you where you can get an instant look at the top metrics, workforce metrics, and insights that we provide. Then, we'll take a deeper dive into the top insights that impacts the two major areas of concern for our clients and customers, that being productivity, and engagement. And then lastly, we'll do a quick overview of mine and Prashina's favorite features. We'll tell you why they are favorites and also how you can use them to add value to your organization. But just a heads up, a few things to note. All your mics are muted, as you will know, but please feel free to use the chat to ask questions or make comments at any time during the webinar, and we'll try to answer as many questions as we can during the Q&A sessions at the end of each section. One thing you'll note as well, the Q&A section, there'll be a Q&A box that's just below the chat. You can also put your questions in there, as well as later on towards the end of the specific section, there'll be a poll that will pop up and you'll see a vote button so you can use that to vote. But without further ado, I'll hand it over to Prashina, who will take us for the first section.
Let us begin with our first section, which is easy access to numbers that matter. Without access to vital workforce analytics, businesses are left in the dark, struggling to accurately track performance and gain visibility into important workforce trends. The foundation of measuring workforce analytics begins by analyzing how best time is spent. From there, you will uncover insights to increase your team's productivity and improve your operational efficiency. With the latest analytical tools from Time Doctor, the analysis of data has become quicker and easier, saving you time, costs, and energy that you will be expensing. Now, let us look at what exactly can you achieve with data analytics. First and foremost, you can personalize the employee experience by recognizing employee engagement levels, work life balance habits, and even attendance. Organizations can utilize these metrics to improve the overall well being of employees. This helps you in retaining your talent and positively impacting on your productivity. Secondly, informed business decision making. Descriptive analytics, alongside historical data performance, can be used as a guide to guide businesses in making decisions and minimizing losses that are experienced in the future. Thirdly, to streamline operations. Gathering and analyzing data about your team and their productivity can help you identify any bottlenecks or factors that could affect smooth sailing and mitigate these factors. Fourthly, we have to mitigate risk and handle setbacks. Risks are everywhere in business. Data analytics can help a business recognize these risks and put in preventative measures to make sure that these risks are mitigated. Last but not least, security and compliance. Effective workforce security is important to every business because it reduces the risk of liabilities. This increases your business revenue and at the same time decreases your operational charges. Now, let us begin by analyzing Time Doctor's metrics. We are going to be focusing on the dashboard. What exactly is the dashboard? The dashboard is the default page on the web application of Time Doctor. There are two types of dashboard. An interactive user can use see their own information on an individual dashboard. The second type, a team dashboard, is where a manager, admin, and owner of the account will be able to see the data of their teams. There's a few criteria that I'd like to highlight about the dashboard to you as well. The dashboard is composed of multiple widgets. These widgets can be customized by selecting in the right hand corner of your screen on the dashboard, there is a gear icon, and you can then, by using the checkboxes, display which widgets you would like to reflect upon. Each widget offers you critical information at a quick glance. These widgets can be viewed in different time frames. The time frames are the today, yesterday, the past 7 days, as well as the past 30 days. And last but not least, there are hyperlinks that are available on the bottom right corner of each widget. These hyperlinks take you directly to the report where the data has been derived from. Now let us begin with our first section of the dashboard. Our first section of the dashboard is the overview section. Within the overview section, you have the total time that has been tracked, the total manual time, the total mobile time, the total time relative to the unproductive websites and applications your team has accessed, and the amount of active users at that very moment. Now, let us take a deeper look into the widgets. Below the overview on the left hand side of your screen, you have the top projects widget. This widget represents the amount of hours that has been tracked per a project. For me as manager, this means that I have clear visibility of my project deadlines. And by utilizing these metrics, I can very quickly identify a bottleneck and mitigate any factors that could affect smooth sailing in the future. The next widget on the right is haven't tracked time yet. This widget represents a user that has not accepted the Time Doctor invite or has not started tracking time. I implore all of the managers and admins who have recently added new users to the platform to have a look at this widget, as this will notify you if any user is not tracking their productivity. Now let us go into our next section of the dashboard. Our next section is our trend section. Within our trend section, you'll be able to identify the productivity of your team based on the amount of hours that has been tracked and their productivity relative to the websites and applications they have accessed. Let us look at the widgets in a little bit more detail. The first widget on your left is the hours tracked widget. This widget gives you visibility of those users who have tracked how many hours in a day, and as you can see, it is a weekly view. On the right of this, you have the productivity percentage. This productivity percentage is represented in graphs. If you hover your mouse over, this will highlight the different productivity ratings and you can observe how productive your team has been. With this information that I have as a manager, this means that I will be able to make informed business decisions as I have this productivity data at hand. Now, let us move to our next section of the dashboard. Our next section is our top users section. Within this section, you will be able to identify your top performers, your rock stars, and your outliers. Let's look at the widgets in a little bit more detail. Starting at the top of your screen on the left hand side, you have, I beg your pardon, the highest percentage of time that has been tracked on productive websites and applications. This refers to a user that has tracked the most amount of time on productive websites and applications. On the right of this, you'll find the highest percentage time of users that have tracked on unproductive websites and applications. This widget represents users that have tracked the most amount of time on these unproductive websites and applications. Below that, our next set of widgets is tracked most hours on your left. This widget represents a user that has tracked the most amount of hours in the time frame you have established. On the right is tracked least hours. This widget represents how many users, I beg your pardon, the amount of hours that a user has tracked that is the least in that particular time frame that you have established. Below that, our next set of widgets is the highest percentage of idle minutes. This represents the users that have accumulated the highest amount of idle minutes. Idle minutes refer to a minute which is logged where there is no computer activity that is being tracked. On the right of this widget, we have the highest percentage of manual and mobile time. This widget represents any users that have added time to these reports or alternatively tracked time on their mobile devices. Now, let us move into our last section of the top users, which is our websites and applications. On the left, you have the most used productive websites and applications, where on the right, you have the most used unproductive websites and applications. By utilizing these two metrics, you could quickly identify the tools that your organization is currently using and if your team is actually using the tools you have deployed. Alternatively, you could also identify a tool that is not being used but is an expense to the company, which you can quickly cut and save on costs itself. Within the top users section, you have historical data at your fingertips where you are able to identify the top user and your gold standard for each department. Alternatively, also your outlier who needs a little bit more attention. And this is a great way for a manager to intervene and have that conversation of work distribution and productivity with their team. Our last section of the dashboard is our attendance widgets. Our first widget on the screen is our latest data widget. This represents the users that are currently online and tracking. Below that, on your left, is didn't start work at a specific time, which you can customize according to your work schedules. This highlights any user that has not started tracking time within the scheduled work time to begin. On the right of this, the last widget that we have is didn't start work. This widget represents any user that has not started work or alternatively may probably be absent or even on vacation. These widgets of attendance is particularly important for our HR team as well as our finance team when looking or querying for those users and how they are adhering to work schedules. Now, I would like to take you into a poll and invite my colleague Calvin alongside. I would like to hear from you. What is your favorite section of the dashboard? Please refer to your chat box on the bottom right of your screen where you'll be able to vote on this poll. We have four different options, which are the overview, which consists of a consolidated metric of all of your data, the trends, where you can identify the productivity of your teams, the top users, where you can identify your top performers as well as your outliers, and last but not least, your websites and applications, where you can identify the tools that your team is currently utilizing. Welcome back, Calvin.
Hey, Prashina, thank you. Yeah, you did a great way of explaining that first section. So, just a reminder to everybody where the poll is, that is just below the chat. You should see something that says vote now. So, if you click on that to vote, the options will come up and you can choose. Prashina, where do you think the scores are gonna be on this section? Where do you see it?
I think I'm going to put my money on trends definitely for this one. I think our audience today is more interested in looking at their team's productivity specifically. But what were you willing to put your buck on, Calvin?
I would say I'll go with website and apps. I believe sometimes, especially we're talking about productivity, right, and engagement. So you'd want to know if your users are spending time on obviously the productive websites that you've set. So I think it might lean more towards that, but let's see. Let's give them another, let's say, 15 seconds. Is that okay?
Perfect. And please, I must request that after you are done voting, please go into the question box and insert your question or any question for that matter that you might have had during this session. And we're going to get to that shortly after the results of the poll. And we are counting down 5 seconds for the poll to close.
Let's get those votes in. All right.
Perfect. Wow. Well, there's a definite spread between all four of our categories, but websites and applications is definitely taking the cup for this one. So you were right, Calvin. Our audience definitely is interested in the tools of their teams and how exactly their productivity is relating to the access of the websites and applications. Thank
Yes.
you. Now we're going to go into our question and answer section where we're going to take some of the questions that you have had for us. And I will take our first question, which reads: how have other customers used some of the data from the dashboard widgets? Can you give us an example? Well, our customers in general access the dashboard, as I've mentioned in my section, as a quick overview of insights without having to look at a detailed report. So these offer you quick metrics, especially on a weekly or even maybe on a monthly, depending on the amount of data that you would like to reflect on, as a quick metric of analysis that you have on handy. So that is a great way for our other teams are currently using the dashboard. The next question I'd like to hand over to Calvin.
Yes, I will take the question that can the other managers see my team's data? Um, so the answer is no. When you are set as a manager, you will see your team's data and only your team's data. So you won't be able to see another team's data. So it will just be focused on the team that they manage, and that's what they'll be able to see. Rashina, you can take the
And
next.
thank you. Our next question reads: will the currently working widget indicate what time the agent started working? So, no, the widget indicates that the user is currently online during that specific time that you are observing. But you can quickly access the hyperlink on the widget itself, where it will take you directly into the timeline report and you can see what time the agent has begun their shift. Alternatively, you can also refer to our attendance report where you will be able to have access to how the user has begun their shift, how many hours they have clocked, and when they have ended. And I believe that is all the questions that we do have for this section. I'd like to hand back to Calvin now, who will take us through section two.
Fantastic. We will get to the other questions that were there as we have more question and answer session coming up. But now that we've recapped the top metrics, let's take a deeper dive into how you can apply these metrics to solve issues at the two top areas of concern for our customers, namely productivity and employee engagement. Now, there are two ways that you can measure productivity using Time Doctor. First, according to the different ratings applied to websites and applications your team uses, and second, by how active or inactive users are during their working hours. Now, let's begin with the ratings applied to websites and applications. There are four possible productivity ratings available in the console. Firstly, productive, unproductive, neutral, and unrated. Now, many websites and applications have default ratings. For example, by default, Prime Video is rated as unproductive and Zoom is rated productive. Also, other websites can remain unrated, but owners, admins, and managers, if they're allowed, can adjust these productivity ratings on the productivity ratings page, which can be found by clicking on settings. Now, did you know that you can customize the productivity ratings for some user groups or even some individuals within your company? I know there was a question that was asking this, so this is your answer. The scope column on the productivity ratings page shows the level at which the rating is applied. The scope can have four values. Global, this applies to all companies using Time Doctor, and it contains default ratings which you can adjust for your company. The second one is company, and this, as it says, applies to your company only, as we can see in the case of Zoom. Then individual. Now, this applies obviously to a person, a single person within your company. And the fourth one is user group, which can apply to a particular user group, as we will see in the next example. So, as I mentioned, Prime Video is rated unproductive at the global level. So, this means that Prime Video will be rated as unproductive for all users in all companies by default. If you then rate Prime Video productive for a specific user, like in this example, it's the marketing team, they might use Prime Video for marketing purposes to advertise. So that means that Prime Video will then be considered a productive use of time for the members of the marketing team, the members of that group only, whilst it still remains and will be considered unproductive for everyone else in your company. But what we need to understand is that when we're speaking about employee engagement and productivity, work life balance always comes top of mind. This is the reason why Time Doctor built a widget that helps you identify those employees who could be potentially having burnout issues whilst they're struggling with a balance between their professional life and their personal life. Now, a potential work life balance issue can occur when the following things happen. One, it's a day when an employee works too many hours, or a day when an employee has worked late hours, or even a day when an employee has worked too many hours outside their scheduled working times, or even a day when an employee has worked on a weekend day. So let's say if your weekend is a Saturday and a Sunday, and that employee works on one of those days when they're not scheduled to. Now, in order to view these employees that have the most potential for burnout, the best way to view it is when you're looking at the past 7 days or past 30 days tabs on the dashboard. Now, it shows people who have the highest number of potential work life balance issues based on the rules specified for your company on the company settings page. Work life balance issues, I will always mention, are important signs. And they're just as important of picking up on employee disengagement And this is where the second metric, which we use to determine someone's productivity, comes into place. Now, as a manager or an admin or even an owner, I would believe that understanding how active or inactive someone is during their work hours will provide you with insights into how intensively they are working. But first, let's discover and go over what an idle minute is. As mentioned by Prashina earlier, a minute is considered idle if a user does not use the mouse or keyboard whilst they're tracking time. So if there was at least one keystroke or mouse click or mouse movement during that period, the minute won't be considered idle. Now, let's be mindful. It is very normal to have idle minutes. We are humans after all, and depending on a user's role and seniority, it's normal for idle minute percentages to have the following ranges as you see on your screen. So anything from 5% to 70%. The typical percentages of idle minutes will vary considerably by role. The activity summary report is where you will find out how productive and active someone is. Here you can sort through different groups or individuals and select different periods to get an overview of how your people are working. Now, what you'll notice is that the percentage option or the percentage will give you a percent out of the total tracked time, whereas the other just next to it gives you a fixed total time for the period that you've established. Now, it's safe to say, and I believe this too, that it would make more sense to compare these metrics over several people in a similar job role within your company than to evaluate the activity level just based on one particular user. That's it for that section, and we will now take a few minutes to address a few more questions that are coming through. But we do also have another poll, so please get to voting. This one asks, what improvements have you noticed after Time Doctor has been implemented in your company? Now, the options are: one is productivity, two is engagement, three is a balanced workload or balanced work life, and four, you haven't seen any improvements. Okay, so get to voting. As you know, the voting option is just below the chat. Prashina, welcome back. Based on how our guests answered the last time, where do you think we're going to land this time?
I would definitely say productivity based on the tools that the team was accessed was has taken the cup in our first poll. So I think productivity is going to take the cup in our second poll. Where do you think we're going to land, Calvin?
I 100% agree with you. I believe, based on what we've picked up throughout the course of the webinar so far, productivity is at the top of everybody's mind.
Definitely. I would also like to add for all of our new prospects that have just joined us, please do vote. Even though you haven't had much time to analyze the metrics, we would also be interested in what you would like to see improved on as well. And please send your questions on the chat as soon as you're done voting so we can get to it. And we have 10 seconds left for our poll. Counting down now.
Let's get to voting and see where we end up. Let's see who wins this time.
Here we
And we
go.
were, yeah, there we go. We're both right. And yeah, it's safe to say that most of our attendees are definitely seeing an improvement in their productivity, which is great. There is a few that clicked on none, and we would encourage you to reach out to your customer success manager, and they can maybe help you and share some tools on how you can see those improvements and see more value. But thank you for voting. We'll spend a couple more minutes taking your questions. I do see that there is some more questions that have come through. So let me start. I will take the first question, which is, how will the tool? I'm assuming they mean the tool. How will the tool, which is Time Doctor, identify if this is a productive website or not? Okay. So basically, what you would have to do in that case is, as I mentioned just a couple of minutes ago, there are some websites that are rated unproductive by default, and there are some that are rated productive by default on the global level, which is rated by Time Doctor. So it would be like that for all companies. But essentially, you would go in and rate those websites as productive or not. So depending on, for some companies, YouTube, for example, might be a productive website. So you would need to go and rate that productive for your company, and that is when the tool will start to identify if something is productive or not based on access by the users.
And I will take our next question, which reads: can I download the list of websites and applications accessed by my team? The answer is yes, you can, by accessing the web and app usage report, by clicking the export function and customizing the content of the report. You can simply select only the websites and applications, and after downloading it, you will have this information. You are welcome to take our next question, Calvin.
Yeah, I'll take this one. It says, is there a feature in Time Doctor 2 that can help us identify applications to defeat Time Doctor 2? So, in other words, mouse jigglers, for example. So, to answer that question, there is no specific feature in Time Doctor at the moment, but you are able to request this. It's called a suspicious activity report, where there is certain criteria that our data scientists are able to view that and pull that report for you and explain to you what is suspicious, what seems to be maybe a mouse click or a tab switch or anything of that sort. So you can request that from us. You can speak to your client success manager, or you can reach out to our support team, and they will be able to pull that report for you. Prashina, I think
Perfect.
there's one or two more questions.
Um, well, the question that I am reading currently speaks about metrics of identifying the industry rates of idle minutes itself. So, just to answer you, we do have benchmarking metrics as Calvin has demonstrated in our webinar itself. And this can be found in our website, benchmarking at timedoctor.com. We will also be providing that for you. So, this is the basic standards that you can refer to. And as Calvin said, keeping in mind, we are only human. These are standards that we have gathered after Time Doctor has done much research on a global level. And I believe that is all the time that we have for questions currently. I'm going to hand back to Calvin to take us through section 3 of our webinar.
Fantastic. Thank you, Prashina. And we are moving to a section that we both love because we get to speak about the feature that we love the most within Time Doctor. And one of my favorite features is email notifications. And I believe, or the reason why I believe it's it's valuable, or why I love it, is I believe it's a valuable tool, and it's a valuable asset to managers and admins, sorry, as these are fully customizable trigger based notifications. Okay. These can free you up to spend less time manually digging through reports, clicking here, clicking there, trying to find data. And more time gives you more time to ensure that your teams are being productive and they are maintaining good work life balance. Now, there are two types of email notifications that you can set up within your web app. The first one is what I call, well, they call the regular email notifications or the daily email notifications. Now, these are alerts that can help you to gain more visibility in your team, into your team's performance before they become a problem. So, any issues that come up, you can set that up. And as a manager, I do believe that you would want to manage distractions. You would want to refocus team members that are spending or have the most unproductive time and move them onto the right tasks. So, by using these productivity alerts, you can stay informed of potential workload and efficiency issues, um, with notifications on lower than average activity levels. Now, they can help you, these alerts can also help you get ahead of any disengagement or consecutive absences. Also stay on top of those employees who might be on the verge of burnout. Because, like it says, you can set low productivity alerts, low activity alerts. You can even get the alerts based on your work life balance issues. Now, you'll receive one single report every morning in your inbox with all of the conditions you establish for those who meet the criteria that you choose. Then the next one, these are real time email notifications, and you'll receive them in real time. So, immediately, as soon as certain conditions are met, hence the name real time and alert, right? So, there are three conditions that you can set for your users. One is didn't start working. So, if you have a time that your users are supposed to start, let's say 9 o'clock, 9 a.m., and they haven't started within 5 minutes of that, you will get an alert to say the following user hasn't started work. Or if you utilize work schedules and the user has not started a shift, you can also set that up to get an immediate alert, helping you to get on top of those kind of things. And then lastly, if you allow your users to add manual time, you will get an alert when a user has added manual time. Prashina, why don't you share what your favorite feature is?
Thank you so much. My favorite feature is integrations. Here at Time Doctor, we understand how important it is when choosing the best software for your teams for that software to be present with third party integration capabilities. Well, integrating your applications and your tools with a solution like Time Doctor allows you to track all your projects, tasks, and time into one consolidated system. This is exactly why integrations is my favorite feature. How exactly does it work? Time Doctor inserts an add on, which is a start or stop button, into your third party application. And by clicking on this button, you immediately start tracking time on that specific project or task that you are working on without having to leave. And you can just continue getting to work. This is demonstrated on your screen. On the left hand side is an indication of the interactive version of the desktop, which presents the heading of the project as well as the time that is currently being tracked. On the right of that, you will see the third party application as well as the heading of that specific project and the start or stop button that you have in play. Now, how do you go about setting this up? Well, let's have a look. It's three simple steps. By accessing your integrations on your company settings of the web application of Time Doctor, your first step is to enable the Time Doctor Chrome extension. The second step is to download the Time Doctor Chrome extension from the Chrome Web Store. And the third step is that Time Doctor is going to start syncing in all of your information without you having to do anything at all. We are currently internally testing a Firefox extension and we are hoping to release that soon. So stay tuned, there's some good news around the corner. In addition to this, Time Doctor also supports over 60 plus integrations with other applications, which includes your favorite communication, CRM, help desk, and accounting tools. Now, I'd like to hear from you. Let us move into our next poll, which reads: what category of applications would you like to integrate Time Doctor with? The options are communication, payroll, CRM, or help desk. Please start voting now. We have 30 seconds. Calvin, where do you think we're going to land here?
Hey, based on where we've been going, it's going to be a tight call, but I would say possibly CRM because I know CRM links a lot to productivity, making sure that, everything is in one place kind of thing. If an email is sent, it's tracked, emails come in, they're tracked, you can make notes. So I'm leaning more towards CRM. What do you think?
I was going to say my bet is between communication and CRM. I think we definitely have a lot of managers that is sitting within our audience. And I think those are the two categories that I would like to focus my money on. So let us see. We have 15 seconds left for our poll.
Yeah,
And
definitely.
please, can I motivate you once again to continue asking your questions?
All right, the results are in. And CRM does take the title for this section, and yeah, it's definitely not surprising. Like I said, based on who we believe we have in our audience today, so that's a great option. So why don't we spend some time, Prashina? We've got a few more minutes to really dive into to some questions that have come through. So let me start with the first one, which says, when does Time Doctor send daily email reports? Okay. This email report comes to you in the morning. So generally, it is sometimes dependent on your time zone, but it will most definitely be in your inbox in most cases by 7 a.m. Sometimes it comes a little bit early. For me personally, in South Africa, I receive mine at 5 a.m. in the morning. So, but it will definitely come in the morning, usually before your day starts. Okay, over to you, Christina.
Thank you. Our next question reads: how does idle time work if we use two monitors? So the answer is that Time Doctor continues to track regardless of the amount of monitors that you have in play. Whichever screen that your mouse is currently on or that you have last worked on, this is where Time Doctor begins tracking all of the idle minutes and it accumulates, and that is what is presented within the reports itself. So, to answer your question once again, does not matter which screen you're working on, idle minutes will be captured on the screen that you were last working on. Calvin, over to you.
Awesome. I will take the question about the conditions of the work-life balance. So, can I customize the conditions of the users highlighted in the work-life balance widget? You can. This is done on the company settings page. So there is a how can I call? There is a drop down of specific conditions, like those that I mentioned when I explained it. But you can customize it to suit your company in terms of what is too many hours, what is a weekend, how what is after hours. So in that case, you can customize it, but we do have certain conditions and criteria that you can work with. Back to you, Christina.
Perfect. I'll take the next one, which reads: do you have any examples of how to minimize work life balance issues? So, the most common examples that we have is that the managers have a conversation with their teams. So, first and foremost, by utilizing the metrics from the work life balance habits, you identify these users that are going to be experiencing a burnout phase. And then you isolate the categories. Is it too many hours? Is it too long hours after their shift? Or is it also work on weekends? And the most probable way I would definitely go about doing that is by distribution of task and workload amongst your teammates. That is definitely the first play that we have, which will reduce the load on one team player and put it on the entire team. Alternatively, you could also work out more structured deadlines with regards to your projects or tasks that you have within the team so that the team can adhere to it without expending too much of energy and being at risk of a burnout phase. Over to you, Calvin.
Awesome. We still have time, so I'll take one more. I'll take another one. Do screen captures take shots from both screens? Okay, great question, Steve. Yes. So as Prashina mentioned, no matter how many monitors you have or how many screens you're using, screenshots will be taken from those screens. So that's definitely what can definitely put you at ease, is that that will be monitored. And obviously the active screen is where the websites and apps will be tracked, but the screencasts will be taken across the monitors.
Perfect. And I will lead into our conclusion um, and wrap up our question and answer section, as that is all the time that we have for our session currently. Calvin, over to you.
Yes, thank you, Prashina. Thank you, everyone, for joining. I'd like to mention as well, if there are any questions, not if there are any questions that we didn't get to, please be aware that we have taken note of those, and we will reach out to you and answer those questions. But I want to thank you for spending the time with us, giving up your hour to be with us today, as we shared just a little bit more of Time Doctor insights and how you can get more value from using Time Doctor. And we do encourage you to go ahead and look at and try out the different things if you're not using them already, or maybe you discovered a different way of doing things today. And if you did, then by all means go ahead and give it a try and see how that definitely helps. And hopefully you can start to see better engagement and better productivity from your workforce. Prashina.
Thank you once again for joining us in today's webinar. If you would like to learn more about Time Doctor or you have any queries, I'd like to draw your attention to the email on screen, which reads support2@timedoctor.com. Please send us any queries that you have, and we will be glad to assist you. We hope to see you at our webinar. Time Doctor for all environments. Time Doctor, get better together. Thank you so much. Bye bye.
Bye bye.